Throngs of people here in the audience. Welcome to the Planning Board meeting for September 18, 2014. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I'd like to remind everybody the Arlington Street Fair is Saturday in Arlington. Vassar, or the Juliet College store is going to be having a grand opening and ribbon cutting, as will the Burger Fi Saturday. So come on up and check it out.
How much did they pay you for that?
They didn't pay me at all. I don't get paid for this. This is just pure joy.
It's love.
Civic.
It's civic. Okay.
Or something.
Okay. Item number 1, A1. Okay. The Benoit Theodore subdivision and site plan hearing for a 2-lot subdivision and site plan, 1 lot to contain an existing 2-family residence and garage, and a 2nd lot to contain a new 2-story residence, 3 Springside Avenue, zoned ATC Arlington Town Center, 0.29 acres, non-listed action. Benoni Theodore, owner. The department, anyway, I move that we adjourn the public hearing until October 16th, 2014.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Call the question.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 1, 2, 3, 5, 0. Item number 2, Marist College parking improvements, St. Anne's. Site plan hearing and waterfront consistency hearing to expand parking area and reconfigure access road on Marist property at the northerly end of the campus, 3399 North Road, zoned IN institutional, and WD-1 waterfront overlay districts, 26.5 acres. Type 1 action, Marist College owner, to be adjourned. I move the planning board adjourn the public hearing until October 16th, 2014.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Public hearing number 3. Okay, I move that we're going to adjourn this, but I need to open the public hearing and then adjourn it. So do I have a motion?
I move that we open the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded. We open the public hearing. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. I need a motion to adjourn the public hearing until October 19th at a special meeting of the planning board at 5 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so moved and seconded that we adjourn the public hearing to October 19th for a special meeting to hear this application at 5 p.m. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay. You take my agenda? Swimming in paper. Okay, application, public hearing, number 4, Springside Neighborhood Development. Is the applicant here? Come on down. Subdivision and site plan hearing for a lot line revision review for a modified proposed mixed-use development 45, 48, 52, 54, and 57 Springside Avenue, 25 Van Wagner Road, and lands to be acquired from New York State DOT and the town, zoned ATC Arlington Town Center, and R20 residence, single families, 20,000 square feet, 5.27 acres. Unlisted action, Built Parcel 4 LLC and Built Parcel 3 LLC owners. Okay. That all said, and please identify yourself and we can hear what you have to say.
Good evening, Michael Rodriguez, Tinkleman Architecture.
Okay.
Eric Nyler, also with Tinkleman Architecture.
So good evening. It's nice to be back before the board again for our Springside project. It's been a number of times. I think since last we were here, we've appeared before the town board to complete the rezone process for the parcels. So all of the parcels in the project have now been rezoned to ATC. We were also appeared before the ZBA, and that was to obtain 2 special permits. The first had to do with a special permit to allow for a multifamily use, and then the second special permit had to do with the mixed use, where it's both residential and non-residential within the same structure. And so we were successful in obtaining those. So we're back again tonight, and we understand there's some comments we received from different departments of the town but we're hoping to obtain approval conditional upon satisfying those comments. So if we could, we brought a few boards with us. We'll kind of run through just a brief refresher on the project. We also brought in some new images. We brought both boards and a digital presentation. I don't know if we have to do anything special to get the screens on, or if they should. If not, we'll the boards.
Wow. Vanna. Nice work.
Brought the screen down, but it's just a bluff. We don't want to turn anything on.
Oh, look at this, and we can watch. We don't have to turn it.
We can watch it on TV.
There we go. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. We're watching the baseball game on you guys.
So we got it everywhere except for the screen.
What's there?
It's a subtle project.
Right there.
We're all about minimalism.
Right behind you.
It's
None. Right behind you. That, like, That's gonna be the screen. That might be it. Neil.
Okay, fantastic. So we'll start off with kind of the overall view of the project. As I mentioned at the outset, our project now, we have a variety of parcels. You can see Holy Trinity Church there right across the street. It's the parcels that we own, and then we're also in negotiations with the DOT to obtain the end of the block there. The parcels that were added to the project, and where we're actually doing the first phase of development on the north side, is the one larger parcel, and then we're actually going to be going to the closing for the small parcel at the corner, which is 57 Springside, and that's the parcel that was most recently rezoned to ATC. So again, we just wanted to make it clear as we go forward that the project has been taking place in phases. So we initially started with our office, where we moved in on the corner of the Arterial and Van Wagner Road. We redeveloped the buildings in that area. The next step is going to be on the north side of the road.
Do you have a pointer?
I don't. Thank you, Carol. You're a lifesaver. So let's see. Okay, so this is the southern lot. Most lots here have already been developed, and on the north is where the next phase of development is going forward. So I know we've shown you all a site plan that contains a larger building down here, and even a building at the end of what we affectionately call the pork chop. But that'll be at a later phase. So we'll be coming back before the board. We'll have a clearer idea in mind of exactly what we're doing there. But now we really want to focus on this area up in here. So here's our colored site plan. Again, this is something you've seen before. As I mentioned, these two buildings down here and this parking field, that's part of a future phase, and that's just really to show our intent for the project. The buildings that are in question, the Hilltop building, as we're calling it, that's a total of 16 units, and this is fully residential units. And again, as the name indicates, Hilltop, it's at a higher elevation. It's they're flats, single-story flats on the ground floor, and then up above, they're two-story units, and the units in the center are loft units. So those are the units that are really going to have the sweeping views. As you stand on the hill now, you're looking out completely over the top of our building, and you're looking down into the church property. As you get up into those higher apartment units, once you're on the third floor, you're really going to be looking down, even past the church property, and really into all of Arlington, Main Street, down towards Vassar.
Are they all two-bedroom?
They are not all two-bedroom. In the center of the building, we have a couple of loft units that are one-bedroom. So what we did is with the floor plan on the second floor, there were two bedrooms sharing a bathroom in the center, and one of those bedrooms has been removed. And so now when you walk into that living room, you walk in, and then it opens up to a full-height two-story space with windows to kind of maximize the impact as you walk into the space.
How many bedrooms in that total unit?
Well, I think what Mike's referring to is what we call the gatehouse, the center house. Sorry, it changed its name. That would be the smaller of the two buildings on Springside, and that has 6 duplex units above the commercial level, and 4 of those duplex units are one bedroom. Those are the loft units that Mike is referring to, and then up on the Hilltop building, which is a total of 16 apartments. There are no commercial, just the apartments. All the units on the ground floor are simplexes, so they actually have, but they are 2 bedrooms. In fact, most of the apartments in the Hilltop building are 2 bedroom.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking. All of the 16 are basically two-bedroom, right?
Yeah, I think the center of the center building are 1 bedrooms on the top level.
Okay.
In the bottom level, there's two one-bedrooms and the rest are four two-bedrooms.
Right, yes, the center house, 4 of the units are loft units, essentially 1 bedrooms. And then the two end units are 2 bedrooms, full 2 bedrooms.
And I think the engineer's report states that there's a total of 44 bedrooms proposed. 44 total.
Right, we have parking calculated, I mean, the parking,
That's where I came up.
the project parks all the bedrooms that we've allotted.
Thank you.
Very good. So moving down from the Hilltop building, we provided some pedestrian access here. We're taking advantage of the space between the buildings here for a combination of purposes. One is for stormwater management. So we have a couple of rain gardens going in, and the idea would be to do something similar to what we have on the campus now in this area, if you've been to the property. So we would do something similar here and here, but then also integrate that with some kind of a seating area for the tenants so they could have a place to meet, to kind of enjoy the community there. As you continue down the hill, there's a small stairway back here behind the center house, and that leads down to a public plaza. Right along the front of the building, we have a kind of a colonnade in mind, and so that would be a nice area if we were to have a restaurant user, maybe have some tables out in that area, and then that fronts to the parking right here on-street parking on Springside. And then, of course, we have the building here which is existing at 45 Springside, and the idea there is down on the ground level, which is the way the house is laid out, that ground level is actually more of a basement. We'd be building a small addition on the front to allow for about 1,000 square feet of commercial space for that unit. So if we go to the next slide, I think is a rendering that I think the board has already seen. And so this is the view kind of across the street from Springside from our existing campus. This is what the new center house would look like. There's a small addition on 45 we spoke about. Back here with the red door, there's the root cellar, which we've been fighting tooth and nail to hold on to and not grade out of our project. And then back in the back, along this hill, there are some existing trees there now, and so we're doing our best to maintain those trees. We'll clean up some of the brush that's down at the base, just to make it a little bit more presentable, but the idea of having some screening for the residents in the back is something that we like the idea of doing. So we've actually brought some new renderings with us, and I'll turn over to Eric, and he'll talk a little bit more about the architecture.
That parking is kind of, you pull off a little bit from the road, right? This is set back, this is kind of back a little bit.
It is, yep. So that's completely out of the right lane.
I think one thing I would add on this image is that we left out some of the trees just so you could see the building in the back of the project, but the intention is to keep that hillside to the east of the center house essentially as untouched as possible. Otherwise, Mike is saying we're going to clean it up, pull out the scrub and the trashy stuff, but leave specimen trees and add to that planting as well on the slopes of the hill and working around the corner. So it'll actually probably be even more verdant than you're seeing here. It's just that we didn't want to hide the building for the purpose of the presentation. So this is sort of featuring that public space that Mike was just talking about. Just to the left side of the image, you can just see the shadow of the existing house that left out. Oh, yeah, probably my hands are probably too shaky to use this thing, but that would be right over here. So the focal point of this project is this little pedestrian plaza space on Springside, and as Mike was saying, it'd be easily accessible by the people up on the hilltop unit. They'll come down these interesting set of stairs onto here, and it's got some. This whole project is about urban placemaking, and we're just partly just making the most of the opportunities that this interesting site offers, and linking it to the buildings across the street. The vocabulary of this building is very similar to the two houses that we developed on our current property just on the other side of the street. So the materials and colors will be relevant, but the buildings will still have their own identity, and it's important as part of that placemaking that they not seem too uniform, but they are definitely linked. And you can see the arcade that Mike was talking about that goes across the front of the building and would provide outdoor seating. Potentially there could be a little wine bar a bakery, that kind of thing would be great, to be a home run if we got something like that, but it's, we would entertain different types of tenants for that. And you see the two-story units above, these are those loft-type spaces that look out on Springside, very, very urban idea on a small scale. Let me go to the next slide, I think. This is a shot from up in the parking lot of the Hilltop building, looking back towards the entrances of the duplex, of the center house duplexes. So as Mike had said, all these units are accessed from this side. Their parking is up here in this lot, and they walk down the short pedestrian path to their front door. And this just gives you a sense of the openness. This is a public space for the residents, and that'll be probably equipped with, maybe it's got a bocce court, or there could be some area for croquet or public small gatherings by the tenants and their guests. Again, you kind of get the sense of the architectural motifs. It's making use of traditional elements, traditional ideas of building form and home, but it's still a piece of modern architecture, and like we're using casement windows, and so there are touches of modernism in it. It's meant to be something new, but something that fits into this area and into the neighborhood in general. This is a shot from approximately from across the street on sites. The Manfredo house is actually right here, right now, which when it comes down and the new building terminates at this end, this whole hillside will be planted with an array of some interesting grasses and some flowering plants. There are also some trees scheduled to be planted here, which I left out of this shot just so you can see the building a bit better. And you can see the relationship across the street of our building and the houses that we renovated a couple of years back now at this point. There may be some additional embellishments to the entry to this, but we're trying to keep it in the proportion of the neighborhood, even though it's larger than its neighbors, but it's meant to fit in. And I think you can see the way that this really, I think, highlights the way that the bulk of this building is being broken down into separate pieces that read like a collection and mitigate some of the mass that you get from a 16 apartment building. I guess that concludes our imagery.
Our imagery? Nice to see the birth of a neighborhood. That's kind of that's good. Birth of a nation, birth of a neighborhood. Neil.
Well, as Mike mentioned, we've seen various phases of this project off and on. Staff believes that this is probably an appropriate time for the board to consider granting a conditional approval, moving this project to the phase where we can work out some of the site plan details at the staff level. That being said, I just wanted to back up onto it would be item B4 in our staff review on the top of page 2. There's a reference to easements and maintenance agreements are required for common parking access and utilities across lots 4, 5, and 6, subject to town review and approval. That's actually referencing the reciprocal easement agreement that we would normally require that essentially ties together all the phases of the project. But I don't think it should be limited to simply 4, 5, and 6. I think that we also need to capture the 2 lots across the street as well, lots 3 and lot 2. So I would recommend that as part of the board's approval, that it also recognize that the REA should extend to those 2 additional lots across the street. Now, those were subject to a previous approval by this board. The subsequent phase, if you look at the site plan, which is drawing AZ 101, it's in your package. There's the Phase 2, which is the stuff to the west that is not part of the approval being requested tonight. Wrapped up in that is the need to obtain the land from the DOT. There's also a remnant road, the remains of what had been Springside Avenue that used to cut across what is now the westbound arterial that is still, we believe, owned by the town. And we've got, we're actually working on that. There'll have to be a conveyance of that. So that'll be subject to a subsequent phase. And until we have sort of ironed out the details for the acquisition of those two pieces of property, and then the applicant comes back for the plan for that, that would then be subject perhaps to an additional REA to include that phase. So again, lots 4, 5, and 6 on the north side, lot 3 and 2 should all be part of the reciprocal easement agreement. Sort of tying everything together. And that's consistent with the purposes of the Arlington Town Center in terms of a unified development.
Okay.
I'm confused with doing a site plan approval before the subdivision?
I'm sorry?
Doing site plan before subdivision?
They actually have to come back and give us a plan for the subdivision.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little unusual. There've been a bunch of moving parts on this, but yeah, it's one of the criteria that we'll have to come back and see the actual subdivision approval. They do not have all of the details ironed out in terms of the meets and bounds on the north side. So it is a little unusual, but that would be a subsequent approval.
What happens if they don't get subdivision approval?
Well, they'll have to get subdivision approval. The chairman won't sign the map. It'll be a condition. It's part of the conditions, recommendations of staff.
So,
I mean, so that's, the subdivision approval is one of the conditions?
Yes.
For site
Come
plan.
back with a plat that accurately represents all of the
Even though
things
they
that are
got-
shown on the site plan.
okay.
So there's no downside to deferring conditional site plan approval because
You can defer it as well if you wish. Yeah, the idea here was that we wanted to have an opportunity to, at the staff level, to iron out a bunch of the site plan details. And, you know, if you wish to defer it until they've gotten the subdivision plat pulled together, that's fine. You can certainly do that too.
right, and we can and continue to work out some of the site plan details.
If you wish.
Got it.
I don't know, Larry, do you have any comments on this?
Just other than the letter we submitted, I don't know if you want to go through that. I would agree that they're details. We, we do note a couple of items that have to be addressed. Maybe, I don't know if this is something that you would like to discuss with the planning board. Snow removal is going to be something that they recognize is going to be a task that they'll have to deal with. I mean, they're doing a lot of development in this area and putting a lot of things on not such a lot of area, which is, I think, a good thing here. It's, they're doing it in a very attractive way, but they're going to very quickly become experts at snow removal. We talk about the snow that's going to be pushed along Springside Avenue. There's really no snow storage areas there. The snow storage area is going to be their sidewalk. So they'll have, I think maybe as part of their development plan, I don't know if you're thinking about making this a part of their requirement or just leaving them the onus of having the snow removal plan in place to demonstrate that the snow will not be hindering the pedestrian movements along the sidewalks or possibly impacting
We'd have to require that they literally remove the snow
Yes, yeah, I think
instead of
I think so.
truck it someplace.
Right. And even on Hilltop, they're talking about occupying several of the parking spaces with snow area or with for snow storage area, and that's not something you're going to want to see there through the balance of the winter. Maybe during a storm. That should also be addressed. And then there's some details that we've got to work out between the town and the applicant as far as ownership and maintenance responsibilities of the parking and the utilities that go in and out of town property along Springside. You know, again, a lot of our comments are nuts and bolts comments. They're things that they need to address. Planning and our office talked about some traffic issues on the intersection of sites in Springside that we just need to make sure are looked at. We're going to be putting a lot of traffic, well, we're not going to put a lot, we're going to be putting more traffic onto sites than we did with prior renditions of this plan. We need to carefully look at site distance to make sure that potential stacking on sites doesn't create a concern. You know, if we have some people stacking back up and we have people coming over the hill, we want to make sure that there's adequate site distance in those areas. And you mentioned, I have a couple comments in my letter. You mentioned potential tenants, wine bar, bakery, which are food service operations, which could potentially generate additional water demand, could potentially generate the need for a grease trap. I think those are all great. I think that you know, it looks like we've got water out there. We've got ample water out there. If there's a time to consider maybe making pipes larger or putting tanks in the ground, this is the time to do it. So, you know, together we ought to think through that. You know, if you think you have the potential for having those tenants, you know, we should bring those considerations to the floor very quickly. Again, these are nuts and bolts things. You don't want to be ripping up that beautiful
Right, I was gonna say, you don't,
that beautiful parking area,
Well,
you know, for a grease trap.
yeah,
We've
right.
had some preliminary discussions already, working with LRC and with Ken on that. We kind of have a location picked out for the grease trap, kind of an approach or a strategy for that. And the discussion we've come to the next level at is to what extent we want to go to prepare for that in the future. And I think your point is well taken, Larry. We definitely don't want to come back and have to
Right.
rip up something after we put it down.
So again, you know, truck turning movements we'd like to see just to make sure everybody's on the same page. We'd like the opportunity to sit down with your engineer, with LRC, just to make the addressing the comments efficient and quick relative to the stormwater pollution plan. So I think that they would welcome that opportunity as well. So if the board is okay with that, we would like to sit down with their engineer and just kind of work those things out offline. I think that's pretty much it.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you.
Ed?
You want to do the public hearing first?
We can open yeah, we can do that. We're gonna probably leave it open at this point.
Yeah.
Do everything all together instead of just piecemealing it.
I move we open the public hearing.
Moved in second, we open the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Anyone sign up to speak? No? Okay.
I move that we adjourn the public hearing.
October 16th.
October 16th.
Second.
Moved in second, we adjourn the public hearing to October 16th, 2014. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Ed?
Larry, you stole most of my thunder. And I do have,
It's got to get on the microphone.
Mike, Ed, pull your mic down a little bit, please.
I'm sorry. I always like to do a pilot. Yeah, I've got 5 areas that I kind of was looking at. Parking was certainly the first one. I came up with a total of 44 bedrooms as well. If I just take a look at that, most apartment dwellers have 2 cars. Right there, you got probably 44 cars, a need right there. You're looking at 6 spots along the curb. Having grown up in the city, I remember the nightmares of snow. And you got it, you know, a law that says November through whatever, no parking out there, so that goes away. Definitely the need for lot 2 and 3 to be a part of your parking requirements. And I don't know if you can extend that parking back further towards Plates Terrace. If you can do that indentation. Looks like you've got room lot-wise, if you can extend that parking back a little bit to pick up a few more spaces, especially if you're going to be doing, a wine bar or something like that. and
Well,
get
the
casual-
parking for the commercial building is handled by the on-street parking and by the parking across Springside. The residential parking is all accommodated per code on the upper lot.
I hear you, but I'm not happy with that from the standpoint of winter.
And I think he's thinking that, if I'm, just to clarify, I don't think Eric's understanding. I think you're thinking about the street side parking extending back, extending that, that line
Springside.
of parallel parking along the road just further, like,
Yeah.
to the right.
You can bring that back further.
Here, yeah, at one point, we were looking at adding some additional spaces here. What's not evident on this map is kind of the grading challenge that we're up against. So the hill comes and it
Yeah.
dives down pretty steep here. So we would get into a situation where if we were to come back and add spaces here, now you would be parking up against a retaining wall. And that's, obviously a cost concern. As far as the number of parking spaces that we have, when we did the initial project, we built out the lot, and that was under the BH district. So now that the property has been rezoned, we're required to have a total of 59 spaces, and we have 84 spaces. So we have 25 extra spaces in this lot. And there would be an agreement that the corporations that own the properties, BP3 owns the southern lot, BP4 owns these northern properties. So there would be a cross parking agreement. And we agree, it would be nice to have the residents utilizing this lot and then have the commercial use focused on the on-street parking and then across the street here in the larger lot that already has some commercial type uses related to it.
I guess I'd be happy if I saw a plan that shows us where you're going to use, what you're going to use for snow removal or storage, along with the parking scenarios of the usage of lots, 2 and 3. And that would include the entire site for snow. If you can show us that kind of a plan, I think that would help alleviate some of those concerns. And I'm really looking at the winter months as being.
Okay.
The next thing is, it looks like a great community, and if you can expand any of the walking areas, like a sidewalk that goes right along Springside, but if I just heard you correctly, I'm hearing a wall.
Yeah, it becomes a grading concern because of the way the hill comes down and ends right at the road.
Take a look at it, will you?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the integration of that neighborhood, with all those buildings and sites to have great amount of access across the road and so on would be terrific. I saw where you had a terrific slope in your slides of, down the sites, how do you say that? Seats?
Sites.
Sites? Yeah, Sites Terrace.
One of the ideas we do have in mind, and again, this would be as part of the next phase of development, would be to bring the sidewalk on the south side of Springside. So potentially, we could run a sidewalk here, maybe cross over, maybe in front of the Shrek property. I know it's not so nice to go behind the parking spaces.
You guys anticipate me. It's really good. Yeah, great. There's some concern, I guess, about the capacity of water and sewer, whether or not there's enough if you do the full site. That was per Eric's note of number 9. It's unclear if water and sewer capacity are available for all permitted use. Show plans, notes restricting any use that would not be supported by the proposed water and sewer capacities.
Yeah, I don't think it's a capacity issue, it's just knowing what the numbers would be. We've got plenty of sewer.
So
water.
we just need a clarification.
Yeah, it's clarification on the numbers.
The easements are part of it as well as town encroachments, I take it.
Right.
Correct? And traffic is the other one that, I know that, I'm fully aware of that hill over there, and it's, I was the one who suggested the Ballards to begin with in that early project, so, yeah.
Yeah, we, just, let me kind of jump in while we're also talking about traffic. There were improvements made to the Shrek electric side of the road. You may recall roughly about a year ago.
Right.
Was striping and some ballards.
Right.
The understanding that the applicant would also either undertake or pay for the installation of regular curbing, and then that area becomes grass because the front of the house on the other side, the steps are literally in the right of way. So, yeah, not a great situation.
Just take the steps out.
What's that?
You can just take the steps out,
Yeah, that works. So, but actually, that has worked very effectively to slow people down through that area. And about 2 weeks ago, Eric and I met with some representatives from the highway and police department and fire department to talk about this entire intersection. The other consideration, really having nothing to do with the applicant, is Sites Terrace itself is a cut-through. We recently received information indicating that the people are going the majority of people are going well above the posted speed limit of 30 miles an hour for sites. But Van Wagner Road that tails off on our project plans, you just sort of disappears off to the right there. It's a one-way only coming out. There are people who come northbound on Van Wagner, use it as a cutover to get over to Taft Avenue and making that illegal movement. But we also have people coming the other way that are also allegedly speeding through that neighborhood. I don't know if we have the speed information for that. The volume is considerably less on that. The problem, though, is that Van Wagner Road has both vertical as well as horizontal curves, and you've got driveways that are basically blind for the drivers entering and exiting. So that was part of the discussion, but the question of what do we do with this intersection revolved around potential signal upgrades or possibly making it just a four-way stop. But those conversations between the various departments are still ongoing, so we have not yet come up with a plan for how we're going to address the traffic there. And again, keeping in mind the traffic that we're already observing on sites, particularly coming downhill, as well as the traffic going northbound, is already a problem, having kind of independent, having nothing to do with the applicant per se, but it is an issue.
Yeah, I guess there is some consideration about a flashing red light.
Yeah, I mean,
conjunction with stop signs.
the signals are there. I personally, I'd like to see it as an all-way stop. It's not. There's actually 5 movements to this thing. There's an additional road over.
It's an interesting intersection for sure.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting. Yes, that's the proper word.
I think anything we could do over there is great.
Okay, that's all I have
For all these years.
Thank you.
Richard.
Great project.
Thank you.
I really don't have anything to add. I mean, I think we probably need to get, if there's a parking agreement between the two properties, we probably need to see that before approval too, along with the other easements.
No business.
Because if we don't see it before, it's likely never to get done, so. And I think it's best that if we wait and do the subdivision prior to the site plan.
Yeah, I like some things about the plan, the outdoor seating you mentioned out front, it looks like it's gonna be a nice area down there in front with, I may consider a bike rack there too for bringing people in, trying to make it more pedestrian friendly in general. I echo Ed's comments about more sidewalks where you can. I thought about sidewalks down sites where you were showing plantings perhaps, but I don't know what the topography is. How the topography is going to work out once you do the demo and create the new building. I do see, if you can use sidewalks through the residential parking and down to that commercial building in front, but it looks like you're walking down steps. Is there any ADA accessible way to get down from the parking, from the?
No,
Okay.
sadly, it's much too steep. We looked at that. I think it might be important to say that, the sidewalk issue is a complicated one, and we have done the best of our ability on our property to make this an interconnected, pedestrian-friendly project. And as you can see, we have a sidewalk on the south side of
Yep.
Springside planned which would connect to the, with the crosswalk to the commercial building and then up to the hilltop. Part of our plan was that would also connect this whole complex to the public sidewalk on the arterial. The DOT right now is not in favor of giving us, letting that happen. With all due respect, I think running a sidewalk up sites is questionable. I mean, it's a sort of a sidewalk to nowhere. At what point do you take that sidewalk to? It's also kind of beyond our ability to provide sidewalks.
Well, there's grade issues there as well.
Yeah.
Very steep.
Well, I mean, I'm just thinking neighbors on sites want to get down to this area too, but if they can make their way through the existing sidewalk in the parking lot.
Right. How do they get down there now? If they want to go down to the arterial now? It's, again, we're proposing a sidewalk along Springside, and I think probably in the future it would be looked at that there be a sidewalk maybe on the Shrek side of Van
Yeah, you
Wagner.
mentioned that. That'd be good to investigate.
but,
Although there's a nice big tree there that would be a shame to lose, I think.
Well, that's one of the challenges of the sidewalk on the south side of Springside. The other side is somewhat questionable because of the grades, as Mike was saying.
Okay, yeah,
so-
goes up fairly steeply.
Yeah, but the existence of the tree on the south side in front of the houses is one of the reasons that
Yep.
it's going to,
Right, it's
yeah, it affects the
Right
ability.
off there,
Unless you want to take the tree out to put a sidewalk in. I
That's-
don't think any
yeah.
of us want to do.
I think the tree is a better amenity at the moment. I guess the other issue I do want to echo Larry's comments also about the traffic. I looked from, I pulled out before the meeting here from about where the exit from the upper parking lot will be, and looking to the left, the sight distance is an issue. There's a utility pole right there, and it's coming down the hill a little bit too, so it's to be investigated. Keep the plantings low, I guess, that for, as well as turning left from Springside onto sites. What else did I have? I guess that was it for today. It looks like a good project overall, I think,
Thank you.
That's it for now? For now,
for now.
okay. Peter?
Neil mentioned earlier, the reciprocal agreement, lots 4 and 5 on the north and 2 and 3 on the south, which will help a lot, I think, with the overflow, which I think you're going to have, especially if you have a restaurant in that, the building in lot 4. My question is, phase 2, if you build the apartment building, to what extent, if any, will the parking be needed in lots 2 and 3 for that apartment building?
So in the initial master plan, we have kind of another field of parking out to the west, the area
Yes.
that goes out, as we call the pork chop. And so in that conceptual plan, we were looking to be able to, and I don't recall the numbers off the top of my head, but we were either meeting or right at the parking requirement that's required. In the ATC district, it's a lower requirement. It's only 1.5 per dwelling unit, as opposed to the 2 per unit in some of the other districts. And so that worked to our advantage in laying out the site.
You have, you're proposing, at least on this plan, 33 units, which would require about 45 parking spaces. You would, at least on the drawing that I have, you would have a deficit in that pork chop section, which would seem to require a considerable amount of parking in lots 2 and 3, which I think would be a concern. Even with the cross easement, you might still run into a problem with parking once that apartment building is built. I mean, it appears that way. That's why I'm asking you that question.
Right. So as I mentioned before, what we have now, because we went from the BH to the ATC zone, we have 25 extra spaces in that lot. The development on the northern side we're doing, we meet the parking requirement independently with the 41 spaces up top and the 6 down below. So we have those 25 on the south plus the new field that we'll be putting in. But again, I'd just like to stress that anything on the south side is very conceptual at this point, particularly at the end of the pork chop there, that other building. there's some sewer issues and other items that we'd have to really take a close look at.
I understand, that's why they call it planning. That's really why we're here. I just wanted to make sure that once the apartment building wasn't built, that I feel comfortable with that cross easement, knowing that you have adequate overflow if you were to have, for instance, a restaurant in that building. And there wouldn't be a problem in assuming that there will be times when you're going to lose 5 spaces on the street because of snow. That's going to happen. My concern would be after the apartment building is built, how many of those spaces in lot 2 and 3 will be eaten up by the apartment building? If you could give us a guess. I know you don't have to do it right now, but at some point, it would be helpful. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd just like to mention again, that, as you said, that south side apartment building is conceptual, and I know the neighbors brought up the issue of how many stories it was as well, so depending if you want to take off a floor, that might relieve the parking there as well.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, we did have
something
a.
to think about in phase 2.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I actually think that, it was a productive discussion, and I think we got to ferret out a few things here, got a better idea where you're coming from on some of the stuff. We can get this list down for the next time, it's to everybody's benefit. We can get a lot more of these questions answered and get the process moving along. Obviously, the parking is a big concern, so we got to work on that real well. And the sidewalks, do the best we can do because, we want it to be as walkable as possible, and I think that's, but overall, like I said before, we got, this could be a home run, so I think it's good. Okay,
Do we need 2 motions to defer both, or can we do with one?
we could probably do one.
Okay, I move that we defer site plan, I move that we defer lot line revision and site plan approvals pending middle of the plat for the consistent with the site plan proposal, and items 1.
We gotta do this one. We gotta adjourn, you gotta adjourn this first.
It's not just the lot
No, no,
line,
we
preliminary subdivision.
adjourned the public hearing.
Public hearing, this is, adjourn, this is,
We
this
adjourned
is,
both.
did we do both, public hearing and subdivision?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did we do both, Carol? I'm
we
sorry.
didn't,
That's what I was saying before. I
Didn't
think
close
you
it yet.
You only did site plan.
Just a public hearing.
That's what I thought, so we need to adjourn the preliminary subdivision public hearing also.
I thought that they're just a single public hearing until you.
They're called out as 2 separate.
We noticed them separately, so that's.
Okay. So we closed the site plan public hearing?
We adjourned it.
I didn't even know that.
We're adjourning all the public
We
hearings.
did.
We did adjourn both of them.
No, we opened the site
We didn't open 2 different public hearings, we only opened the public hearing
for the site plan.
for the project.
But they were noticed separately in the paper. I think that's what you're saying.
Is your question whether the public hearing for subdivision was ever even opened, since you're saying you only opened one?
Yeah, we only opened one public hearing.
You can open it now and adjourn it.
Yeah.
Okay, I move that we open the site plan public hearing.
And what do your notes say, Carol, that you open and adjourn site plan?
So I just opened subdivision.
Open.
Subdivision.
Right.
Okay, do we have a second to open the subdivision public hearing?
Second.
Second. Call the question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries
I move that
5-0.
we adjourn the site plan public hearing till October 16th.
Second.
Is there anybody that wants to speak on it? Or are you adjourning without?
No one signed up to speak.
Okay.
You have a second?
Second.
Second. We have a second to adjourn the preliminary subdivision public hearing to October 16, 2014. Question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
I move that we defer subdivision and site plan approval, subject to 1 through 13, but we want to modify number 2 to include lots 2 and 3 on item 4, as well as 4, 5, and 6 in the planning board comments, or planning department comments, as specified by Neil.
Okay.
And we want to modify the number 1 to, it shall be the express condition that the applicant obtain subdivision lot line revision approvals from the planning board prior to site plan approval. That was done as if we were going to approve
And comments from the planning board at tonight's meeting.
Yeah, I would add that too. Okay, and I want to note that the comments from the engineering, including a plan for snow removal. Okay, and the comments from the board, and particularly the cross agreement for parking and the other cross agreements. And I think that covers it.
Second.
Do you guys remember all that? Carol, do you have all that down?
Oh, yes.
Good. It's been moved in second, so I'll just call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And we're not going to conduct architectural review,
No, for all.
so we'll just,
That was number 13 on the thing anyway.
I got a D. All right, we don't have to do anything with that. Okay, so we're good. So on October 16th, hopefully we can
Do everything.
get all this done.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good presentation. Okay, moving right along.
Moving right along.
Let's see, then where's my little thing here? Okay, the time to ask for a motion to suspend the rules to allow comments on any other agenda items.
So moved.
Moved in second, to call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Is there anyone wishes to comment on any other agenda items? Agenda items. Okay, seeing
I
none.
move that we resume the rules.
Second.
Moved in second, we resume the rules. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, plan review, number 1, Lutheran Care Network is off the agenda this evening. Lutheran Care is going to reschedule that application.
No set date yet.
No. It's not a public hearing. It's probably going to be in October, but
Yeah, I talked to Peter Romano from Chase late this afternoon. He had received the staff comments. He thought it would be more effective to set up a meeting to engineering and everybody else to go through those comments before the next submittal. I suggested to him that would be for the November meeting. There's a fair amount of material to cover, so that's why that was a late withdrawal at the request of the applicant.
so it'll probably be November. Okay, number 2, O'Neill Dutton, 1 Dutchess Avenue Development. Recommendations to the town board regarding a waterfront housing overlay district, a WAD designation.
WHOD?
WHOD, sounds like a radio station. For development of 7 4-story buildings with 84 dwelling units on 3.88 acres plus a .82 acre public park area as part of a larger waterfront development of adjacent lands in the city of Poughkeepsie, additional 300 dwelling units and 13,500 square feet of retail space on 10.44 acres plus a 1.6 acre public park area, 1 Dutchess Avenue, town portion zoned IH heavy industry and WD2 waterfront District 2. District 2 districts. City of Poughkeepsie Common Council is lead agency. Type 1 action, final EAS on file. O'Neill Dutton Group LLC and State of New York owners. Okay, gentlemen, please identify yourselves and,
Yeah, good evening. Louis Kaufman and Finbar O'Neill for the applicant, the O'Neill Group, Dutton. We seem to have lost our consultants and attorney for the evening for a variety of medical and other reasons, and so we have a relatively Spartan display, nothing like you're used to from before. But
I don't think we need a lot of detail tonight.
yeah, okay. So, but we're here and hope that we have provided sufficient information for the board to recommend that the zoning be approved by the town board. Thank you.
Okay. Neil, I'm
So,
looking,
Mr. Chairman, as we discussed back at in the July meeting, the intention tonight is to try and send this project back to the town board with a recommendation, favorable or otherwise. It's entirely up to the board. We used the month of August to go through a bunch of the comments from the July board or planning department staff reviews, I'm sorry. So I think we've covered a fair amount of ground. I think the staff believes that this is now ready to be sent back to the town board for a public hearing on dropping the the waterfront housing overlay district on the site. There are a number of comments. Liz has been handling a lot of the review, the planning review of this, and the recommendations that you see in the report. I'll let her speak to in some detail and answer any particular questions. But I do think this, we've worked this particular application sufficiently to be able to send it back to the town board and allow them to take it to the next stage. So I'll kick it over to Liz.
Not to repeat anything, but the initial part of the review was a little broader. We had looked at the WAHD rezoning. We looked backwards over the City of Poughkeepsie's EIS to gain some information from that. And in the last round of review, as Neil said, we're really focused on just the zoning aspect and working towards a recommendation. And as the board knows, this project is on a brownfields cleanup site. Their remedial design work plan is getting close to conclusion. The applicant's letter indicated that the demarcation layer and cap is being installed. And just to quickly recap, the next step in the process for the site remediation has to do with draft site management plan, which is going to go before the DEC. Anyway, the planning board had some concerns about that, so we've reflected that in the recommendation. Anyway, between me and staff and discussions with the planning board, feel that the planning board may be ready to consider a recommendation on the proposed WAHD designation. The applicant isn't ready to take any other action besides making this recommendation at this time. So what I've done is prepared recommendation language for the board to be able to make the WAHD recommendation and to defer other actions. So.
But the staff's recommendation to the board is that when you send it over to the town board, there are a number of recommended conditions for the town board to consider.
Yes.
And if you could walk through those as well,
Yep.
as I know we spent a fair amount of time on those.
I will do that. Okay. So, in the recommendation, conditions are suggested for any rezoning approval by the town board, including an intermunicipal agreement between the town and the City of Poughkeepsie and other entities, subject to town and city review and approval, which should be fully executed before the commencement of any site work within the town. I'm looking at my review letter, page 2, item 7A, little I. Details that condition of an intermunicipal agreement. The intermunicipal agreement shall address cross-jurisdictional ownership, management, and operational issues as deemed necessary by the town, including but not limited to utilities, emergency response and access, and waterfront park and greenway trail ownership, design, development, and management. So that's sort of a broad overview of what should be included in the intermunicipal agreement, among other issues. And then I'm just moving on. Planning board would also recommend that regarding the site remediation that's in progress, let's see, that a copy of any revisions to the remedial design work plan be submitted to the town of Poughkeepsie. So we have a list starting on page 3, item little II, that lists the different items that should be provided to the town, that must be provided to the town under this condition. So a copy of revisions to the remedial design work plan, a copy of the environmental easement required by the remedial design work plan, excuse me, a copy of the site management plan, concurrent with its filing with DEC, and any subsequent revisions of the site management plan. A copy of the final engineering report required, and any subsequent revisions or amendments of the final engineering report. And then finally, the owner and its successors shall obtain town approval of the mandatory agreement regarding real property tax exemption and any need for payment in lieu of taxes. And that's according to town code, which I've cited there. I don't know if you need more detail than that, Neil? And in addition, the planning board would then defer action on any other aspects of the application. So, does the planning board have any questions?
For you or for the applicant? Or either?
For Liz.
Me.
The recommendations.
Only this. We are hanging our hat on the site management plan. As far as I've been able to determine, and I could be wrong. Or let me ask you, has anyone read the site management plan?
I've read the summary, and that's about as far as I've gotten.
I just think
300 page?
we are, could we charge someone with reading the site management plan? I mean, after all, this is brownfield. So that we can have some understanding of exactly what's in it.
Yeah, I mean, the answer is yes. If what you'd like is for staff and consultants to review it in detail.
Yes.
At the time that it comes back, assuming it comes back to you for site plan, then yeah, we can certainly do that.
I asked, I'm a layperson. I don't really have a lot of understanding about this type of remediation. I think it would be helpful if we had someone who does have some expertise, just to basically
Yeah,
walk us
we could
through.
certainly ask. I'm sure Morris Associates has somebody with the appropriate expertise to be able to explain what's in it. I mean, typically for these kinds of things, this is all DEC jurisdiction, but it doesn't hurt to know what's in it.
Well, we'd like to know what we're getting into.
Right.
Or what we're getting somebody else into.
Right, we could certainly do that. I mean, that would be something that we would do going on an ongoing forward basis. I mean, this is to send it back to the town board, and I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, if it doesn't come back to you because the overlay district fails, there's no more work to be done.
I would assume.
At least I'd like to say that we did, we did our due diligence.
Yeah, well, we could certainly do that, yeah.
I would assume that the city has got the same plan as.
It's all, right.
It's for the
all
whole
same.
site.
Right.
So therefore, it would be interesting to see if they've got anybody that is already looking at
Or
it.
have they done it?
Have they done it or
Well,
anything?
this is the applicant's,
I know, but
yeah.
the plan is the same. Has anybody from the
Right.
city reviewed it,
I-
and looked at it? I'm just saying, maybe
I don't know,
there should be,
the coordination?
maybe,
Wow.
I know, it's asking a
Wow.
lot, but
It is a draft. I don't know that it's in the form that's ready to actually be submitted to DEC, or if we're looking at an early draft. So,
We've submitted it to the DEC. Typically, they'll review it, and if they have any comments on it, they'll tell us how to fix it. And it's as simple as that. We've also submitted the draft of the final engineering report, as well as an earlier report of what was done through, I guess, the cleanup, for lack of a better word, before the cap was installed. So, and we are on target. We're target for, we're in complete compliance at this point with the DEC to move along. So, so we're in pretty good shape with our cleanup.
Where's the city with respect, have they closed their public hearing portion of it?
Yes.
The planning board?
Yes, they have.
Do you have any sense of when they may take action?
October.
I will say, I was in contact with the DEC, and they really put me at ease. They indicated that you were on track, and that they anticipated giving you the final go-ahead by the end of the year.
Yeah.
So it was very comforting. I'm only asking that question because it's just one T I want to cross, just to make sure that we're on the right track.
Right.
There's nothing to do.
Well, we hope, we're hearing the same thing. We hope that's accurate. We're doing our best, and we're in full compliance and running in accordance with the remedial design work plan. So, that is the blueprint, and that's what we're following.
One other quick question. What's the status of the transfer from New York State with the waterfront land?
Yeah, Unfortunately, the person who was well-versed in it had retired. So now we have to get the new fella up to speed, and the final step essentially is an appraisal, which in this case is, what was the purchase price, and then you carve out the size of the patent lands, for lack of a better description, and then you value that, and then they calculate what the cost of the cleanup is, which far exceeds the purchase price. So, that's where we're at. We need to finalize that.
Office of General Services you're referring to?
Yes, Office of General Services. So, we're just, the appraiser has, been back and forth, and then he ran into a little thing because the guy he'd been talking to disappeared. Well, didn't disappear, he retired. So, and I just spoke with him earlier in the week, and he's like, finalizing, and hopefully we'll get it out this week. But in the end, the appraisal will show that the value is, 17 to 20% of the purchase price, and that we have spent over $3 million to date on the cleanup, and actually more than that. And, whatever the percentage would be for that size, which, it far exceeds the purchase price. Because the developable value will remain on the other site. So.
Peter, can I get a clarification as to exactly what you're looking for? Do you want to know what's going to happen, once the site is covered and what the exposure is? Or you want to go all the way back to the testing that determined?
No.
Okay.
No, strictly the site management plan, which I'm assuming addresses going forward.
Okay.
One of the things we talked about was, do they have to disclose that to people who might buy or rent these places, disclose what's under them? Is that right?
Well, and also any future development work, what kind of disturbance is allowed and what, isn't, and what.
Well, there's monitoring and periodic reporting that they have to do the DEC.
Right, but that question did come up at our field trip about, people, is there a disclosure to people who rent there or buy there that, what's going on underneath the cap
Can't be digging an in-ground pool or
to
anything.
deal with?
Well, in a sale, it would be, because there's an environmental easement that will be placed on that, as, and will be clear and definitive. I'm not sure that in a rental situation, you give a title description to a tenant. So, but there is an environmental easement, which is a part of the site management plan and is fully disclosed.
Homeowners association associated with this?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah, the
they ought to
homeowner
have-
association or the owner, if it were a rental, and they're responsible to make sure that it is
Homeowner
maintained.
association should have a full understanding of what's underneath them.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And that would have to be in the homeowner's document that everyone receives.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
And it would be a part of,
Okay,
yes.
that was just
it
a
would be.
question that came up, so we want to make sure
That's-
it's covered.
No problem.
Just to answer Peter's question, yeah, we definitely can review the entire SMP. I didn't feel at this point in the process, since it was a draft, that it should be read cover to cover, because DEC is going to go over, revise, et cetera.
I'm just at a future date.
Yes.
As this progresses, or if it progresses, yes, I agree. That makes sense. Okay.
At some point.
Carl, anything at this point?
I was just going to mention, it looked like the site is moving along well. Get to view it often from the walkway and elsewhere. I did have a question about that stream. Is that the uncovered water and kind of between the town and city parcel now? Is that the stream that we're trying to
Well, we opened
Barry,
it
or
up
is that-
so we could better determine how to lay it, but ultimately, on the development, it'll be underground. We have the pipe delivered, and we're just, we're going to put it
Okay,
underground.
working toward that?
Yeah, it'll open up by the park.
I just had a question. The orange fabric, that's kind of the demarcation layer?
Correct.
Okay. So you put.
You can't, without notice and, some kind of authorization from the DEC, you can't go below that layer.
What is that stuff, like rubber, or what is it?
No, it's a cloth, it's a fabric.
Fabric.
And then there'll be at least 2 feet of fill placed above that again, at least.
It's looking good. I'm glad to see it moving forward. So. That's it.
Rich?
I don't have anything to add.
The only thing I still keep wondering about is, you're gonna build a building on top of this cap. You gotta throw some rebarb in there someplace. I just keep wondering about, how do you not go through that tarp when you're building a building and structure?
Well,
Well, something as well, the site has already been compacted. Dynamic compaction was used to compact the proposed footprints of the building. So it's going to eliminate the need for piles and most likely be a structural slab there.
Okay, so you slab it over and then everything.
So it's slab on grade? Slab on grade construction?
Correct.
Okay.
I think that's what I'm hearing, is that it's on grade construction and all your fabrication is within the slab, plumbing and so on and so forth.
That's correct.
And I assume the deck would be watching that.
I know, just looking ahead, in the future, we've asked for sort of an existing conditions plan of sorts. In other words, once they're done their remediation, we want an existing conditions plan. And, normally what we would have for an existing conditions plan would show existing grade, and I'm wondering if it would be helpful to have some kind of a cross-section as well with that.
Yeah, well, obviously, there's the existing survey we have where we started, and then periodically there's been surveys done as the fill has been brought in for DEC as well. So DEC wants to know where that demarcation layer is placed on the survey.
Oh, I see. We didn't know that there were interim surveys. We were ultimately looking for, what is the land going to look like graphically before you actually start development?
Pretty flat.
Pretty flat,
Yeah.
but that's the kind of, what did we call it? Hang on a second here. A post-remediation conditions plan sheet. Shoreline survey to document the existing site conditions after the demarcation layer and cap are installed and prior to commencement of the proposed mixed-use site development. So that's one of our later site plan review requirements.
That'll be fine. We'll definitely get you that.
That's the PRPS. The PRPS, post remediation.
I used to, as you might tell, I don't have a great taste in my mouth for deck and their responsibilities. Viewing sites sometimes, we've seen a couple that haven't gone over too well due to the lack of inspection. So I would like to see this really monitored closely. I hope DEC does a good job. They seem to be more interested in waterfront projects than some other projects, so, yeah, we'll see.
Maybe more scrutiny too.
That's what I mean.
And I'm glad that Peter, whoever you spoke to, spoke highly of what they're doing, so that's encouraging.
And just without belaboring it, we've got a lot of oversight from DEC directly. Weekly visits from DEC. We have a DEC engineer that's hired and controlled by DEC. We have our engineer, our on-site consultant. So we've got a lot of oversight there. We have at least 4 sets of eyes on everything we do. So it's been well documented and well watched.
Good.
And Carl on the walkway.
Carl's watching you from the walkway, not to worry. Okay, yeah, we're good.
Okay, I move that the planning board convey positive recommendation to the town board regarding waterfront housing overlay district designation for this project with the following conditions for any rezoning approval, sub I through sub 3, and put into the record by the Morris Associates response.
Second.
Okay, so moved and seconded, the planning board convey a positive recommendation to the town board regarding a waterfront housing overlay district, known as a WHOD designation for this project with the following conditions for any rezoning approval. And it's I, and triple I. Call the question, all those in favor?
Aye.
That's the fourth I. All opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
I move that the planning board defer formulation of findings and defer action on the site plan, flood development, and aquatic resources permit applications pending submittal of additional information and plan revisions, and direct the applicant to respond to the comments from the planning board and those received from the town departments and agencies, including but not limited to the following.
1 through 12.
1 through 12.
we have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, the planning board defer formulation of a seeker findings and defer action on the site plan, flood development, and aquatic resource permit applications pending submittal of additional information and plan revisions, and direct the applicant to respond to comments of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies, including but not limited to the following, 1 through 12. Call the question, all those, and, yeah, call the question, all those in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Chairman, members, thank you very much.
So I think I through triple I is really 1 through 3.
Yeah, well,
Okay, all right. Sorry, give me a break, will you? Okay.
so let it be written.
Plan review, Tianda Gia LLC site plan review for redevelopment of an existing commercial building with second floor office and one-story garage additions, 516 Haight Avenue, Zone 8 TC, Arlington Town Center, 0.11 acres, type 1 action, La Ida Gia LLC owner. Is the applicant here?
Why don't you move this to the end of the agenda? I'll see if I can reach him.
Okay, so the applicant is not here. Okay, so we'll move that to the end of the agenda. Number 4, Kistner lot line revision. Planning board to declare lead agency intent for a lot line revision between two parcels, 70 Taft Avenue and Friendly Lane, zoned R20, 1.79 acres. Unlisted action, Raymond Kistner and Bernard Kistner and Marie Frank owners. Okay. That is C4. Where am I? Hang on. C4. Hang on. This one we're gonna hold off until later.
This is just the lead agency.
Yeah. Okay. We looked at the plan here. Is there any questions from the board on this? No? Okay.
Not really.
I move that the planning board declare its intent to be the lead agency to coordinate the environmental review of the proposed project as an unlisted action and authorize the planning department staff's notification of the involved agencies of the board's intent by circulating a notice of said intent, a copy of the EAF, and a copy of the application to the identified involved agencies.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that the planning board declare its intent to be the lead agency to coordinate the environmental review of the proposed project as an unlisted action and authorize planning department staff's notification of the involved agencies of the board's intent by circulating a notice of said intent, a copy of the EAF, and a copy of the application to the identified involved agencies. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And we're going to defer, I guess.
I move that the planning board defer action on this application pending establishment of a lead agency and direct the applicant to respond to the following, inclusive of comments received from town departments and agencies, including but not limited to those below, 1 through 6.
Second.
Moved and seconded that the planning board defer action on this application pending establishment of the lead agency and direct the applicant to respond to the following, inclusive of comments received from town departments and agencies, including but not limited to those below 1 through 6. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, so the clock starts on the lead agency. Okay. Okay.
Well, maybe have him take it through, just let him talk a little bit
Sure,
about the
okay.
applications.
Mr. Kistner?
Actually, Spencer Hall is the surveyor here.
Yes, that's me.
Okay, anything you'd like to say about, you've done the action, but anything you'd like to do, bring the board up to speed on with respect to this
Listen to the record.
lot line revision? Anything you'd like to say?
Oh, well, basically, it's just a lot line revision.
Spencer, if, you gotta grab the floating mic there in the middle. Yeah, I'm not sure it's turned on.
The floating mic.
What we're trying to do is increase the size of Lot 2 so that it doesn't go through the garage that's existing on Lot 2. So it's a 1.79 acre site. They want to make the house lot, which is lot 1.01 acres, and increase the size of lot 2 from 0.23 to 0.78. And this would allow this lot to be big enough, you know, hopefully if they wanted to put a house on it, they could.
Okay. And that would be nice if, yeah, good, it's a
Both
nice
lots-
neighborhood.
Are both lots owned by the same person?
Excuse me?
Are both lots owned by the same person?
Yes, by all three of them, yes.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
No,
Okay, great, thank you.
just a question of doing it.
We'll see you back after the lead agency, you know, the 30 days of circulation.
Okay, well, do I need to go to the zoning board?
Yeah, there's call-outs on, should have the zoning administrator's comments in your package.
It's here, I got it. He doesn't have that?
I got it right here. Existing garage located on lot 2 requires a variance pursuant to section 210-48, definition 210-9, accessory structure.
You don't have a copy of their comments?
Yeah.
You do?
No, I have this.
Oh,
Thank you.
you know what, we can give you the entire packet. I didn't realize you didn't have all of the comments.
You can have,
Oh, she said this?
Yeah, there's a,
Does he have Peters too?
you need to make an application to the zoning board for the variance. She's called out the section of the code. The other thing too is with regard to any of the other staff comments, I'm more than happy to sit and go through them for the next submittal. So if you want, you can call the office tomorrow. We can set up a time to meet and move this thing along.
Okay.
I don't see the section here. I'm sure it's here.
So I have her comments.
Okay. So if you want to set up a time, they'll go over.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be happy to sit down, staff will be happy to sit down and go through the comments and see whatever it is we need to work out.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you. We'll see you back here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Peter found it here. It's the existing garage on lot 2 requires a variance pursuant to section 210-48 and definitions 210-9 accessory structure. Where was mine? Neil, you want to give him a copy of this?
They've got it.
He's got
it.
He's got that one too?
Yeah.
Okay.
He had a copy underneath it.
He says he's on his way.
Okay. Let's see. Where are we?
Architecture review.
Okay, architectural review, number 5, Balbo, 788 Main Street, architectural review for facade, window, sidewalk, and fire escape renovation, 788 Main Street, zoned ATC, Arlington Town Center, 0.37 acres. It's a type 2 action, Antonio Balbo and Maria Balbo own.
Hi. Should I start?
Sure.
Okay, I'm Jordan Valdina, principal of Synergy Design, Architecture and Engineering. I've been doing work on this project variously, pre-planning board submittal, rightly or not. That's sort of what was happening, was going along, and various adjustments to the building department. Somebody probably knows more about that than me on your side, and at some point went to the planning board. We probably just need to table this primarily, though I am here to answer any questions, maybe share a thing or two, but for the architectural review, because as you know, or some of you may know, the plans that were submitted really were permit drawings for the building department. They weren't presentation drawings. So I sort of was found a little too late. However, we do have ideas. For what it's worth, I'd like to share with you the plan, and then I'll come back with samples and colored renderings.
All right, so this will be a discussion.
Yep. Yeah, so primarily that front facade facing Raymond Avenue that's been demoed. And you'll see a beam there. It goes back to the old building face, which is old brick, which is, I'll give you a specific color and a specific style of brick that we're going to do to match that more or less along the base. The storefront glass that's going to be fundamentally that front facade is going to primarily match that's existing on the Main Street side, anodized aluminum. The Main Street side now has some sort of real or otherwise sort of dated-looking stone, which we propose in the central band, meaning not a brick base, very low, perhaps 1.5 feet or so. Again, I'm not looking at these drawings, just trying to give you a sense of what it is, sorry. Will be storefront glass and an EIFS stucco system that, meaning surrounding those windows, the color as you go around that driveway that's off of Raymond Avenue and you head back towards the back side of Tony's Pizza Pit, etc. The current color scheme is more or less like this, some beige colors. We'll be continuing that. The Main Street side will have a tenant that, as we show on the drawings currently, there'll be an awning. It was going to be Verizon. My understanding, they use a red, So the color of the awning is probably going to relate to a tenant choice that we can't specify in advance, though, of course, we can talk about it. And then lastly, that I can think of, is there's an emergency fire escape wooden structure on the Raymond Avenue side. That's just going to be a natural wood color.
So just to clarify, you're not building a new building.
Right.
And Verizon will go into what's on currently the corner piece.
My understanding is that they may not, but I'm certainly not speaking for the owners or the developers in their arrangement with Verizon, but it might be a different tenant.
And how are you gonna, you got those I-beams sticking out and all that, how's that gonna be treated?
Yeah, well, when the emergency fire escape deck goes in its place, there's two things. If you could imagine standing on Raymond Avenue facing this building, that column, that steel column is cheated a little to the left of center. That side of the building is going to have some construction, though none of this is an expansion of the existing footprint. It's a reduction in what was there. There was a wooden structure out front there that was been demolished. Yeah. So over to that left side, there is going to be a small one-story construction that would, house some mechanicals.
You're showing it coming out almost 6 feet.
Okay, so between that and the fire escape, the structure is going to be stabilized and put in place. The fire escape is a deck, basically, and it has wooden columns instead of the steel.
Yeah, I was curious, you said wood, and is that code for fire?
Actually, it is, oddly enough, in a way. The thing, fire is very complicated, and I don't claim to be an expert in it, but, metals get bend when they get very hot. Wood, of course, goes up in flames. But the interesting thing is, that, I'm speaking beyond my pay grade here, but I'm reflecting what I saw, is if you make the entire construction, everything shall not be thinner than a 2x.
You could just give me an answer that the building department has already reviewed this and said it's okay.
Yes.
Yeah, well, and he hasn't officially yet, though he hasn't said you can't do it. Yeah, the thing that's Tom has brought up for me, for what it's worth, and it's actually a difference between the drawings you have and these most current drawings, it's not substantial. The width of that deck comes out from the building is a little bit wider because Tom wanted a little more space for somebody exiting an emergency scenario. It was so narrow that he said, make it wider, so it sticks out a little bit more. But the decking is 2x decking. Everything about it is very solid, which, again, interestingly enough, takes a certain amount of time to, so.
Are you going to be prepared to come in October?
Absolutely, and one of the things I wanted to make sure I knew is, by when do I need to submit colored renderings or any other materials in advance?
Monday's the deadline for the October meeting.
This Monday?
Yeah, 22nd.
You weren't doing anything this weekend, were you?
There's no flexibility on that whatsoever?
I'll leave that to the board. This is an architectural review. I mean, we have in the past, granted some leeway.
As far as materials, you
I don't have a
bring them the
problem
night of the meeting.
Yeah, I mean, the material board, you can bring that the night of.
Right.
It's just helpful to be able to get the packages out to the board as soon as possible before the meeting.
How about Friday?
You want to give them a week's grace so we can push it? Yeah, that's fine. If that does it for
I
you.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we'd like to get this done so we get it cleaned up before winter and.
Sunday evening at midnight.
So we could close the business Friday, or close the business a week from Monday.
We'll give them to Monday.
All right, so close the business a
So
week.
then you can work the following weekend too.
Right.
Okay, very good. And the same number of copies
Yes.
as with the, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
14, I believe?
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Jordan.
Okay. Next on the agenda. Neil, what are you doing with my? Okay, other business. Number one, Marion Salon Spa. A discussion of 1,000 square foot addition for a salon and spa facility, 773 Dutchess Turnpike, Zone BH, Business Highway, 3.1 acres, Donald Adams, owner.
Yes, hello, good evening. Wade Silkworth Engineering, the engineer for the applicant. This is a proposed salon spa. This is on 3.1 acres, which is on the north side of Route 44, just east of Adams Fairacre Farms. Between Adams and Dominic's there, it's the White House, if you're familiar with that. The site resides in Zone BH, and the current land use is commercial. On the tax rolls, it's a converted residence. There's a pond in the rear of the proposed development. Does everybody have one of these? I neglected to bring extra copies if you need me to point anything out.
Yep.
There's a pond kind of central in the property. However, all the development will be in the front of the pond. The proposal is for a salon spa. It'll have approximately 9 hair care stations, washing area, extra rooms for skin care, massage rooms, things of that nature. We are proposing, it says 30 by 30 on the plan, but that is conceptual, and it's looking more along the lines of a 1,200 square foot addition, probably 30 by 40 off the back, to accommodate most of the proposed actions there. As part of the plan, we're going to have a new septic system in the front area. Soil testing has already been completed on the site, and preliminary discussions have been held with the health department. There's a storm sewer coming from the pond that connects into the DOT system. You'll see that on the plan. That's going to have to be moved to accommodate the septic system. And parking, we will be proposing a paved lot in the rear, kind of between the structure and the pond there. And we're not quite sure if that's going to be enough parking, so we are considering a gravel overflow to the west there. It's a little bit light on the plan, but it's on there. So that's kind of an overview of what we're planning to do conceptually. We'd love to get your, open up discussion, any questions, your thoughts, feelings about the project moving forward before we put together a full proposal.
I figure you're taking down the garage and whatever that other barn-like building is, it's in the back?
Yeah, there's just an existing barn structure, which you'll see under the proposed parking area. That's going to be demolished, yeah. Yep.
Two-story house, correct?
It's a 2-story house, correct, yeah. It's a cape style.
Right.
Yep.
Any usage for the second floor?
Not sure quite yet. It could be office space for the business. Nothing proposed beyond that at this point. That's something we're going to need to clarify going forward.
The 100-foot, is that town wetland buffer around the
pond?
That's just 100, there's actually no buffer required per the town code
Okay,
because the
that's
pond is 0.8 acres, it's just under an acre.
wondering.
I show the 100-foot line, just kind of more for me, drawing it up, so I know to keep the septic away from it.
Okay.
How many people will be working there?
It'll vary, but with the hair care stations and everything else, there could be up to 15 employees, I believe, at one time.
And how many spaces you're showing in the lot?
I got 30 in the lot in the back, and then, or 28 in the paved lot in the back, 2 up front and 2 accessible spaces up front. That should handle the majority of it with 15 employees, and then if each of them have a client there at the same time, 15 clients, 15, employees. I wanted to consider the gravel overflow because, if there's shift changes or people are in the waiting room, they might need extra if they're very busy.
Yeah, it gives you another 14, I see, in the overflow area.
Right.
Does the ownership still stay with the Adams or what?
He owns it presently. The applicant, Marion Morris, is in contract to purchase.
The water usage for this is going to be fairly high, given the number of stations hair care stations that are proposed. I assume you've done your preliminary sizing, not only for the typical the sewage flows, but for the additional gray water flows that would come from that as well.
Yeah, it's been preliminary sized per the state health department.
Yeah, we don't have any sewer out there, unfortunately, but.
Yeah, we're just out of it. Yep.
Maybe you could talk to the Adams and run a pipe.
Yeah, but that is a lot.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
That's a lot of water.
Yeah, it's a lot, yeah.
They got municipal water, but no sewage.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, Adams is tied into town sewer, but they have
Yeah, they have their own pump
tenancy
station.
agreement. They're out of the district as well, so.
You know, allow exiting and left turns on 44?
I'm not quite sure. That's something we're going to have to work out with the DOT with the entrance as we get going. I'm sure there's going to be some upgrades there and some discussion about the traffic flow. Absolutely.
And that whole area is very busy now.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Getting
I
across.
made a left out of there the other day, but it was because traffic was at a dead stop, so it was easy to get through. But yeah, absolutely, we're going to have to look
The
at
restaurant's
that.
got the same problem, and the restaurant's.
Yeah, it really
Same problem, and.
depends on the time of the day. It really does.
Yeah, well, the restaurant's pretty much in the evening. They're not open for lunch, I would think. Maybe it's a little better.
They're only doing dinners,
Right.
I think, right? Yeah.
It's a problem.
Actually, it's a bigger problem for the diner, just,
Yeah.
It's closed.
I mean, when it was open.
I mean, the light at the intersection
it's
of
closed for renovation.
Cherry Hill there actually helps because it stops traffic and
Yeah, it
and
creates
backs
some
it up.
gaps for you. Yeah, same
I mean-
thing with the light down at DeGarmo.
Any other questions from anybody?
This is where Lucas had his,
Septic system.
septic,
Business, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it should have a good septic system.
I mean, this is a highway business zone. The use is an otherwise an allowed use, and there's some environmental challenges that have to be dealt with.
Was Millspa Furniture in there at one time, or were they gonna buy that and use that at one time?
I think they were looking at where the restaurant.
I didn't think it was this piece.
Yeah.
It might have been where the restaurant is, but I don't think it ever happened.
Yeah.
Okay, that's my comments. I mean, my concern is mostly the getting out of there, going left, but
Right.
see what you can work out. It's not a unique problem, let's put it that way.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you.
I know this isn't architectural review and this is full site plan, but are you still in the mood for giving extensions for Monday at noon?
See what you did here. Monday, we'll make it Monday, close of business.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Does that give you enough, I mean, you want next, Tuesday, a couple days?
I mean, if I could have till Tuesday, that would help me tremendously.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Thanks, Wade.
Okay, I see, we're gonna go back here to, C3. Latienda Gia LLC. Gia is your daughter?
She is my daughter, that's correct.
Okay, site plan review for redevelopment, of an existing commercial building with second-floor offices and one-story garage additions. 516 Haight Avenue, zoned ATC, Arlington Town Center, .11 acres. Type 2 action. Bautienda Gia LLC owner. Okay, and you are?
I'm Gary Beck, Z3 Consultants and owner of La Tienda Gia. Nothing's changed from the last time that I was here, other than some more detailed review, some colors, some thoughts on roof, but the plans that I submitted last month are the same. We're looking at the first floor again as a reminder that will be my office, Z3 Consultants, Fire Extinguisher Sales and Service Consulting. Second floor is up in the air between office space or apartment. At this time, though, I'm looking for approvals to build what you see and occupy the first floor.
Okay, thank you. Neil?
Yeah, this is a type 2 action for seeker purposes. There are, the site's small, there's a few challenges that Gary will have to deal with in terms of the overall development, but given the location in the ATC district and what it is he's proposing to do, it seems certainly reasonable and doable. I've met several times with Gary out in the field to discuss the, sort of the layout, if you will. It's on a corner lot, so you have 2 front yards, and both the Fowler Avenue as well as the Haight Avenue side. The front of the building is the property line. And we have a 5-foot minimum setback in the ATC zone. So when we were discussing the second floor addition, my recommendation was step that back 5 feet. Don't just put a solid wall up. Avoids the need for the variance, but it also creates some architectural interest in terms of stepping it back. And there's some examples of that in the area. But overall, we're recommending a conditional site plan approval for the project.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna go around, let me start with Rich.
No,
No, I don't know.
I don't really. I don't have any additional issues to discuss on this. It is what it is.
Thank you. I think it's pretty straightforward myself, and it's gonna take what's been an eyesore for a while and
Yeah, I mean, it's,
make something out of it, so I think that's.
get it back in business, that's good.
Carl?
Yeah, nothing further. It's been an improvement.
Thank you.
No. Ed?
Yeah, I assume you've got copies of these letters from both zoning and building inspector. The one that I was really curious about is Tim Sickles. It says, should review the requirement for rated exterior wall for structures when they are placed close to property lines. You've only got about 3 feet between the 2 buildings.
Right.
Is he looking at a firewall or something? Or?
He's looking at a rated wall.
Okay.
It's off the property line. We're going to step it back.
You guys are all set on that, though?
Well, I will be when I get to, I haven't been before a building yet with any plans, but when we get to that point, I will.
All right.
We've looked at it. It'll work.
Okay. You get through us, you got to get through him. Right?
What's that?
You get through us, you got to get through him then, right?
Right.
Okay. And zoning, he wants to know what's the use of the proposed garage? Storage?
It's going to be storage, correct.
Okay.
I have a van, I have some equipment, some supplies that will go in there.
Yeah, you can't leave trucks and things out there, you have to make sure.
Not over there.
Right.
It's a nice neighborhood, but it's still a tough neighborhood. If you didn't know that, I mean, I'm over there weekly cleaning up graffiti and garbage. That's a full-time job for somebody, and it's not even built yet.
So a new structure would be nice. Go for it. I'm good.
Thank you.
Much better palette.
What's that?
Much better palette. Sorry.
You're right.
Hey, and your backlog prevention, you need to do is a test on that, it's overdue.
There's no device in there yet? There's no meter in there?
Reading what, yeah.
Yeah, I see it in there.
I gotta say something here.
That's okay.
Okay. I move that the planning board determine that the proposed activity is a type 2 action and is not subject to seeker review pursuant to 6 NYCRR 617.5 sub C sub 7 of the seeker regulations.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. The planning board determined that proposed activity is a type 2 action, is not subject to a seeker review pursuant to 6 NYCRR 617.5 sub C sub 7 of the secret regulations. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-2.
I move that the planning board waive site plan public hearing for this project.
Second.
Moved and seconded that the planning board waive site plan public hearing for this project. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
I move that the planning board grant conditional site plan review approval for
La Tienda
Gia LLC site plan subject to the following: 1 through 8, and D, conduct architectural review.
Okay.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, the planning board grant conditional site plan review approval for La Tienda Gia LLC site plan subject to the following 1 through 8 and D, conduct architectural review. Call the question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Are you prepared for architectural review?
You're still developing your plans for the building, right? Materials and all that other good stuff, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So when you have those and you're at that point, the board, you'll need to come back to the board to get the architectural approvals for the colors and the materials and the outside of the material.
So you're looking for samples?
Yeah, give us some
Samples,
material board.
swatches,
of whatever it is
boards,
you're
okay.
putting up. Yeah.
Renderings,
Sure,
color renderings,
sure.
that's what the elevations, all sides.
Okay.
In this case, probably 3 sides.
Yeah, well, we pretty much have the elevations. Need to
Okay.
material boards and
Maybe we
colors.
should just defer it until he comes back.
I defer site plan architectural review.
Second.
Yeah, so moved and seconded, we defer architectural review until the applicant comes back in with the necessary information. Call the question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Okay, D2, Route 9D Professional Office Park. This is a discussion of a site plan amendment for a proposed professional office park. Total of 41,520 square feet, consisting of a 3-story central building and two 2-story wings with associated parking, New York State Route 9D East Side, Zone BH Highway Business, 4.4 acres.
Passing notes?
Secret negative deck was adapted on February 21st, 2013. Soccer Spring Park LLC owner.
You ready?
We're ready.
Actually, let me just kind of jump in here as sort of the planning board granted conditional site plan approval almost 18 months ago, which included the 2 90-day extensions in our code. We're coming up at the end of that October 15th, which is a day short of our October 16th planning board meeting. But one of the items that the applicant needed to address was the question of kind of cleaning up the access and the property line issues with the apartment house or boarding house, whatever that thing is next door. So Eric had received, and I had actually received emails and a call from George and from Richard Cantor asking to come in and present their fix, if you will. Now, because our code allows us to give, it's the 1 year plus the 2 90 days, what we're looking at is, assuming the board is in agreement with whatever the access plan is that we're about to hear, they would then incorporate that amendment as part of the reapproval application for this project. In other words, we can't grant any additional extensions. They're going to have to get all new approvals. Then we start the 1 year and the 2 90-day clock at that particular point in time. But they would also have to give us revised plans to reflect whatever the changes are tonight, assuming the board is in agreement that that's the direction to go.
So it's a plan amendment and then reapproval of the entire project?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And start the clock again.
I'm not sure it's 2 separate items, but it may be, because what we're really seeking based on the application forms to the town is an amended site plan at this point. That was the
Right.
application form that we're preparing for Monday's submission.
It has the effect of, we would need to go through and review it and grant all new approvals. It's the same thing.
Fully agreed, fully agreed. Give you guys a little bit, I'm George Cronk with Chase & Companies. I have here the Nestlers that are obviously the property owners. Actually, Beth is here as well this evening. Give you a little bit of refresher on this. It has been 18 months since you've seen this plan, so we'll go through a couple of the items that we've been working on for this project. If you remember correctly, this is Route 9D out here. On the other side of the road is the South Hills Mall entrance. To the south end of the property is the New Hamburger Firehouse. To the north end of the property is the Staples complex or the Staples building. And then if you go past a row of buildings along here, Route 9 is over here. So it's in that wedged area between Route 90 and Route 9. The original conditional approval that we received in 2013 has a 42,000 square foot building. It's 3 levels in the center. It tiers down to 2 levels, has 167 parking spaces, and it gains the access from an easement that was acquired from the Staples property that feeds out to the traffic light on Route 90. That traffic light is a 4-faced light, so it's looking at Staples, South Hills, and then of course 90 in both directions. When we got the conditional approval in 2013, we were aware of an encroachment issue from the neighbor, and the board certainly didn't want to get too involved with that encroachment issue, other than obviously everybody was aware of the issue at the time. Our original proposal is to bring the driveway right out to the Staples easement and be able to connect directly to the light for access onto Route 90. That is the primary access in and out of the site. We've spent an awful lot of time in discussions with that neighbor, and it's unfortunate that I'm telling you that discussions have not gone well, to say the least. Our client looked to provide a full easement, a pretty good access into their own property, and really it would have benefited their property much more than anything else in this process. The tenant or the owner of that property has filed their own actions against this applicant, looking for some adverse possessions at this point. And they're really not in any fast pace to get anything resolved. It's taken a long time every time we have discussions with all the parties to move back and forth. So unfortunately, our applicant has a clock that is now ticking, and not everybody has to abide by that. So we certainly are back here again. We hope you understand the reason why we're looking for another extension, or in this case here, a reapproval at this point.
Is this Staples Corporation you're having such trouble with? Or?
No, it's not Staples at all. It's a small residential building, multifamily building that's located there.
Isn't it a restaurant?
It used to be a restaurant, yeah.
Long time ago.
Before I worked on the project, it was something other than residential. Long story short, that really is the justification why we're seeking the reapproval on this. It has been a very, very difficult process for us, and as I'm sure you're aware, we've certainly hit some stumbling blocks along the way on this project as well. But what I would like to do while we have this opportunity to have this discussion is really talk about a solution that we've come up with that will allow our applicant to move forward with the project. You know, they've certainly had some interest in the property, and without getting a final approval, it becomes a little bit difficult to move forward. So we will be looking to submit this plan for Monday's deadline. And what it is showing is still using the same access coming off of the Staples property, still using the same traffic light, still using the same size building, still using the same size parking, still using the same stormwater treatment practices, still using the same lighting and everything else. But the only thing that's changing is we are shifting the driveway over about 20 feet to avoid.
The whole easel forward.
Oh, sure.
I'd like to see it.
I have a couple handouts if you want them.
Hold on here. This existing?
That's good.
You guys want I have handouts if you really want them.
You better. Do you have handouts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the original.
This is the one that was approved.
Yeah.
Nice colors. So that's a house back there? Is it a rooming house? What is that, that old restaurant? What do they do there?
Apartments.
It's a multifamily house.
You know.
Yeah, it's 3 stories, isn't it? Well, it's 2 stories plus another one on top.
I don't work for the building department.
I knew somebody who lived there.
Okay. So what the plan is showing is in the yellow area, the highlighted yellow is basically where the existing pavement is right now. So there's a little bit of a curb line that comes in, and then right now, the folks for the multifamily go in and they drive across this parking, or this driveway here. They actually can go all the way down behind their building and loop all the way around. We were a little surprised at how much parking is around that building. And what's happened over the years is this little sliver with the green has become parking, probably out of convenience because the front doors for the building are right here. So what we're proposing to do is to allow the owner to continue their litigation purposes with the neighbor, but by shifting this driveway over, allow the project to again move forward so we can get a final approval on this. We'd love to go with the original design. It was our best design put forth first. This isn't quite as good, we understand that. At the end of the day, it's not a huge change. What we've done is we've shifted this over and we relocated a couple of the parking stalls that do butt up against the driveway when you come in. So it does do a slight modification. In our opinion, in discussing this with Richard Cantor and myself, we almost felt this would have been an administrative change to the plan, except for the fact that obviously the encroachment has been a point of discussion even before we got the preliminary approval.
George, you said you moved it over about 20 feet?
It's moving over about 20 feet, yeah.
So they won't be able to park there anymore. I'm sorry.
What's the distance now out to the entranceway from 9D?
It'll stack about 3 cars instead of 4, so it's going to be about 45 to 50 feet. It was about 60. So that is,
But it still wraps around into your driveway there.
correct. It still wraps around in the driveway. There is an exit driveway that is over here that feeds, I forget what's there now, I'll say Enterprise or something. I forget what's there now. So they occasionally will have an exit. They have some trucks that may come in every once in a while, so they exit out of there. So there actually is going to be no change to that traffic pattern. We're basically cutting our driveway in right next to it, so that we have access in and out of here. Like I said, ideally, we'd love to fix their connection a little bit better. It just doesn't seem to be going in that direction. I'm hoping that at some point, if this owner comes in and wants to modify their property in some way, that hopefully they'll be willing to make those changes at that time, but we can't force someone to do something.
Did you say the dark green area, they presently use that as parking?
So they presently, it's a gravel parking area.
But they won't obviously be able to use that anymore.
Oh, absolutely. They will be able to continue to back up and go right out here, right where they've always gone. So they drive in here, park here, back up, and then exit out. So there's no change to the way they're using their property and the encroachment.
That's
I mean, but actually, they're using part of your property to park.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
That is the issue.
They're over the line.
You could tell them they can't park there.
The attorneys are having that discussion.
Well, I mean, that's one of those things that you aggravate the situation rather than help it.
Well, not to get into every detail, we offered very good entrance in and out locations. We actually provided multiple different options, and then monetary requests were made that would have put your kid through private school and college. So we're back here asking for some forgiveness to modify this plan.
I think you had a parking lot for them even on the back of the house. So.
There's an awful lot of vehicles parked there, that's all I can say.
That's how you do business.
The only issue that's, and it's not a new issue, it's if somebody comes out and wants to make a left-hand turn to get out into 9D, it's, if there's a lot of traffic coming in, it's always gonna be an issue. But it's no change.
Does it change any truck movement?
No, the way we've realigned it, you'll still be able to move your trucks in and out. So what we're actually looking to do is come back next month with this plan to do the formal change, and then we would, based on that, resubmit we have to change the lighting, because obviously the lights moved over a little bit, so we have to modify the traffic truck movement plan for the fire truck and other truck. So all that stuff will change slightly, and we're very close to having everything completed, and we really need to know if this is going to be acceptable to the board here or not, because if it's not, obviously we're back to the drawing board. We've really racked our brains on this, and
Might dig in the wrong place.
Yeah, I mean, I think we appreciate the problem. My only question is that you've effectively lost 7 spaces, shoving everything to the west, and you've made them up. But sort of looking at the configuration of that, you're talking about cars backing out of the main access aisle, and just, we can work on that. I think that's kind of a detail, but that's really my only comment on this.
Yeah, and we don't imagine those to be the first used, because we think most people will come in. This is the main entrance to the facility. So whether the spaces were here or here, they're actually slightly closer now to the front door, but.
And besides,
Need those 7.
the traffic in and out that
Make
heavy.
You need those 7.
Well, people come out of
I don't recall it.
Through
Some
Cross.
part of the analysis,
It's a
yeah.
shortcut to get out to 9.
No, but this is inside there.
I know, I'm just referring to the intersection.
Oh, yeah, the intersection, we weren't talking about that, though, we were talking about.
Years ago, the intersection at 90 and 9 used to back up. They modified the light timing.
Right.
Yeah, I remember
And that shortcut that went down by Enterprise really isn't used. Plus, I believe they put in some speed bumps. Makes it less attractive.
Yeah, the intersection works very well, so there's no reason.
But they had a one-way sign too.
Okay.
Yes, there is a one-way. It really only flows out.
I don't see any problem.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your color rendering here.
Yeah.
Moral of the story is don't be nice to a neighbor.
I kind of got that feeling.
Yeah, well,
Good luck with it.
it's unfortunate that happens.
I have to refrain from making comments. Okay, D3, Dunkin' Donuts, 746 Main Street, parking addition.
So moved.
Time extension for
Second.
an approved site plan to transform adjacent lots into overflow parking for an existing Dunkin' Donuts, 764 Main Street, zoned ATC Arlington Town Center, 0.61 acres. Unlisted action, CRE Poughkeepsie LLC owner. Let's see, applicant requests a second 90-day time extension of June 20th, 2013, received, request, whatever. Planning Department recommends the planning board grant a second 90-day time extension of conditional site plan approval from September 18th, 2014 forward to December 17th, 2014.
It's been moved and seconded.
Moved and seconded, call a question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries, 5-0. Mountain View State Subdivision. Time extension for proposed 8-lot subdivision, Bedell Road, zoned R4A, residence, single family, 4 acres, 64.06 acres. Secret negative declaration on file, Mountain View Realty LLC owner. Planning board recommends, 90-day time extension of final major subdivision approval from October 15th, 2014 forward to January 13th, 2015.
Second. So moved.
Moved and seconded that we grant a 90-day time extension, final major subdivision approval from October 15th, 2014 forward to January 13th, 2015. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 5-0.
I move we terminate the meeting.
Second. Moved and seconded that the meeting be terminated. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? You sure? Meeting adjourned.
You want to stay?
I'm not opposed.